So this is Peter Courtney, State Senator. I'm calling you from the Capitol. I'm doing this from the Capitol, my office here, and my staff's in another room. Otherwise, I have to wear the mask they've told me, and I would wear it. I do wear it. I have a list here that people are supposed to be on. I don't know if there's that many on, and that's fine. So I'll just make a statement, and then I'll go to the questions. I was not even planning to do this until this morning. I got a call that the speaker had said something about a special session. And after the economic forecast came out, I said, what? And then there was at least one member of the press, I guess, called one of my opinion. There's already been a story written by the Oregonian. And I also talked to the governor because I don't think either one of us knew there was going to be a public statement. And also in the past, I've taken positions on the special sessions, particularly the ones that we haven't done yet. And I've seen, I don't know if anybody knows it or has referred to it. I decided enough's enough. I'm just going to say where I am because I'm thinking about what's coming in January, and it's a major report will be coming out next week, I hope, or maybe the week after, saying these are the options to how we're going to run this session starting in January. Be that as it may, I do not want, and I haven't wanted a special session in the building for the rest of the year. After the elections, I told that to the governor speaker. I do not want us in the building. And I thought it was just too dangerous. And I put together a group of 3 infectious disease experts out of the Oregon Health Science University, Dr. Towns, Dr. Hackey, and Dr. Nolt. All of them are renowned infectious disease doctors up there. And I asked the governor and I asked speaker and Fred Gerard and Christine Drazen, all of them to be on it. And they went through the different risks. But the one thing they said that caught everybody surprised, because they basically were saying, well, you can come in provided you constantly wear masks, et cetera, et cetera. There are risks. And the one thing, though, that caught everybody, the last thing I said, well, if we have a case while we're in session, what are we going to do? Do you just shut it down? And they said, that's the question you should have asked at the beginning. If you come in, someone's going to get sick. And that just confirmed my suspicions. And so I told the governor that. I thought the governor was going to call us in. She decided not to before Thanksgiving. And then all of a sudden one day, I think it was last week, our numbers went through the ceiling and continued just to go through the ceiling. And so the issue of e-boards is very much there. We do need another e-board. I understand we may not have one until legislative days. I think we would need one before that. And there are issues of wildfire. There's issues of housing. There's issue of the debris cleanup here that we need to do. So I'm very much supportive of another e-board. I think this will be our 13th e-board. And we can do that virtually. As you all know, you've attended these things virtually. That option continues to be there. But the thing you need to know, when you talk about a special session now, you're not talking about historically a special session that we're all used to. I think there's 46, 47 special sessions Oregon's had. I think that's right. My staff is somewhat on the line. I can see them, and I think they've done that research. So it's either 46 or 47 now special sessions we've had in our history.
We've done 43 special sessions in our history.
That's great. Way to correct me right after I say 46. So thank you very much. Accuracy is important to me, even if I look bad being accurate. So anyway, thank you. No, thank you, John Martin. So as far as we know, there has never been a catastrophic session. Never. We've never been through it. So we started to discuss the catastrophic special session about a week or 2 ago. Seriously, we'd heard about it. We referred to it in some general way, but we didn't really know much about it. And it started to come up because they know I don't want a session in the building. I do not want a session in this building. I don't. Having said that, the speaker was on the other side. The governor was on the other side. Fred Gerard and the Republicans were on this side for all different reasons. One is that they agreed there were risks, but they're willing to take the risk. The others are, well, it's really not that much of a risk, et cetera. So we really were discussing a catastrophic session. you can call it a special session. It's Article 10. You probably have heard about it. We're still trying to figure out as recently as an hour ago what it says and what it is. So when you talk about a special session, you're talking about today a catastrophic one, which means we think you don't have to come into the building. You don't have to worry about quorums, etc. So it's like a virtual, it's like the big brother and sister of an e-board. That's what a catastrophic session is in a way. So I hope that when we talk about a special session, now I didn't talk to the speaker since this morning. I'm going to talk with her. I think I read her press release, and the word catastrophic appears in the press release. We're not talking about a special session. I don't believe that we're going to be in the building. It's going to be basically a Big Tent e-board or a big brother or sister of e-board, because that's what it comes down to. And the thing that's you got to know about that is e-board, you could go into all kinds of things. Once the governor makes that declaration, however, whatever she declares it for, you can only deal with whatever the governor declares the catastrophe is. That's it. So, I mean, I'm as solid as I've been. I do not want a special session in the Oregon State Capitol for at least the remainder of this year. I never knew these numbers were going to spike when I took that position, but they have spiked. I live in Marion County, got to live with this, and my county is struggling. And the session would be here at that time. That is, they come to the Capitol, but they've got to be in Marion County. And if they leave the Capitol, stay overnight for special sessions, it'll be in Marion County pretty much. So I want to make that clear to you that that is where I am on the special session once and for all. The governor knows it. The speaker knows it. And I hope that when we talk about this, or you write about it, or it's on television, that the catastrophic word is used, because if that's not what they're referring to, I'm going to continue to be adamant about any special session. Would I come in if the governor called us? I'd come in because I'm a soldier. I obey orders. I'm not going to try to mess it up. But I have to say that the safeguards that we've taken in the last two special sessions, you'd almost have to have a mask requirement, which I can't enforce it. We would still be laboring under the objections. You're not allowing the public in, which I think are not totally true given the ways we've learned to deal with virtual meetings. And they'd have to discipline them in ways that they're just not used to. They have to stay in their offices. I could go on and on, because the infectious disease doctors, while they said you could have another one, but let us tell you the following. And they made it very clear that you really got to take very strict measures. You've already taken them. They really complimented on that, but you got to up your game a bit in terms of, I don't know how you enforce it, but you've really got to make sure that people stay where they're told to stay in the building, that the mask never comes off, et cetera, et cetera. And you got to find ways to get people out of the building any way you can and have them just come in for a vote or whatever. So that is my statement. As they say, we still have work to do in the e-board. We could go into e-board tomorrow. We go into e-board next week. There's no limit on that. It's a dynamic thing. Now, they're going to say you can't do certain things in e-board. Well, I'm not going to get into that discussion. All I hope is that if we do it, we're going to try this new Article 10 to the Constitution. And I got to tell you, lawyers can fight about just how much freedom or how much liberty or flexibility you have under that. So I'll take the questions, comments, or criticisms now about that, or anything else you want to talk about.
Peter, if you're ready to take first question, I have my blue book handy, and it says the governor can only invoke you say she's not going to invoke it, but if she does, she can only invoke it once for a specific disaster. And I don't know, COVID is going to be here for a while. So is that a consideration in you not wanting to do this beyond the obviously physical factors involved in the spread of the virus?
Well, the governor, I don't know what the governor's going to do. She's been very upfront with me, very straightforward with me. And I don't know whether she is or not. She'll have to make that call if we go to a catastrophe. It's an open question what that means. We just were talking about that, Peter. You can only call one of these for the length of the disaster, how long it lasts, etc. And we are going to ask, as a result of where we are now that it's out in public, we're going to ask our legislative council, today I am, tell us what Article 10 means. Exactly, tell us what it means. So we're in that situation right now.
Okay, thanks. I didn't suspect.
I mean, I didn't say what the governor's going to do because the governor can speak for herself. This thing is really dynamic the way it's going. You know all that. I don't have to tell you that. And I think, again, the governor has the authority to call us into the building. She has the authority to go to our catastrophic declaration. She has the authority to do executive orders. And I'd like to be all together on this. Whatever we do, I'd like us to do it together. We're going to have to do it together. And but you've asked basically a legal question more than anything else, Peter. And I'm not going to act like a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not going to play like a lawyer. Like this is the definitive thing about the question you asked. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I asked because obviously nobody, I mean, you can hear all kinds of predictions, but nobody can say when COVID-19 is going to be resolved. So.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I never knew there were so many infectious disease doctors around. I agree. That's why I called in the 3 infectious disease doctors to advise us that they're the one, and they're the ones that are going over our new plans, that they're going to be asked to go over all the plans we have for the next general session. And I'm very proud of that we're doing that. So I don't know this COVID thing, this disease thing, this monster, the vaccine. Yes, I don't know. And I just know what you know. And so I have no idea when you can say for sure the virus is dead. It's no longer a threat.
Senator Courtney, this is Keaton Thomas with K2 News. I hope you're well. I guess I just would like you to clear up a little confusion on my end. You are apparently not in favor of a special session, but are you in favor of a catastrophic session?
I'm in favor if we're going to have a special session, then I'm in favor of it doing through a catastrophic declaration. That's my answer. Well, the issue of whether or not we need it, well, I would say that if I'm telling you we need more e-boards, you could make an argument that, for example, the issue of evictions has become a big issue when we talk, the 3 of us talk, the governor and I, and the moratorium running out, and also the landlords needing help. And apparently we're told you can't do that without a legislative session. And I'm just giving you an example of something. And whether or not that would relate to the COVID or not, I don't know. But if you're going to do that, then you should only do it through a catastrophic declaration. That is my position. So I'm trying to be accommodating, but my first concern is I don't want to do a special session. I start there. I believe it's a sort of thing. I'd like to, even though we have to limp through the remainder of this year without one, I think we can get into January. But if the governor doesn't feel that way and wants to have a session now, then I would only request of her and the speaker to do it through a catastrophic resolution. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Courtney, you just mentioned January. Is your operating assumption at this point that the session is going to start on the 19th? As you know, there's been a lot of talks about delaying, and I know you've been really worried about safety in the Capitol. So how are you thinking about that right now?
The session has to begin on January 11th. January 11th. We cannot do that virtually. We have to be in the building because that's the day we're sworn in. We also pass a resolution that outlines the deadlines and the dates within the general election we're going to do. So those things have to happen. And by law, we have to be in January 11th. So that's got to take place. And that's somehow we got to do it. But there's no way we cannot, according to the lawyers, we have to be in the building. The 19th is when the committee's work starts. And it's my understanding, I'm still not sure whether we have to be in the building that day to start the committees or not, or whether we can do start with the committees. One of the approaches we're looking at is that you would start your committees virtually. all the committee's work would be done. Then you'd come back in a month or several months later, and the number of bills you take up in a short week or so on the set of the floor in the House and the Senate, then you go back again home, and you continue to do any of your virtual work until the next time you came in. That is one of the things we're looking at. The hybrid approach would basically be what we have now, but you'd allow individuals to maybe make appointments under certain circumstances. They could come in the building and meet with the legislator. And then the other one would be you simply open the building. I'm giving you a very quick synopsis of things we've been talking about. So don't hold me to that, but I'm trying to answer your question as comprehensively as I can. And we're not there yet. Our staff's amazing. The group of people are working on this. They're trying to consider everything that we are facing. I don't think, for me, I don't think we're talking about delaying the session is what people, I don't think we are. We are going to start it officially in January, but how we deal with committees on the floor, I think that could become very dynamic and very experimental in view of where we're at.
When you all have taken up, done committee stuff and work sessions in the past special sessions, you all have had to be in the same room for that. Are you saying that in an all virtual, I'm trying to remember this, but would committees be able to pass bills out virtually under one of those scenarios we talked about?
Yeah, you do your homework, don't you, Darren? Because you're absolutely right. You're fully right. We, in doing special session, I was on this joint committee that considered all the bills and trashed them out, and we had to do it in person. We have now been informed by legal counsel, I can almost read it, that under the circumstances, and if we pass certain rules, we do not have to be in the building to do committee work, public hearings, work session, amendments, and full passage of the House. So you're absolutely right about that. We did do that. We said we had to be in the building, and now legal counsel has said if we pass certain rules, be given the fact that we're in this crisis, that we would be able to do our committee work without being in the building. Although, you know what I mean? But you can't vote on the House or Senate floor unless you're in this building. So I hope I've answered the question, Derek. I hope I haven't confused you by what I said.
Senator Peter Courtney, this is Keaton Thomas again with K2. I guess to follow up on what Speaker Kotek had said, what is your thinking about using $100 million for, rent protections or rent stabilization and housing? Like, what would be your prioritization of using some of whatever state funds are available in some sort of catastrophic session?
Well, I said to the governor, I'm so pleased yesterday she announced 55 million for businesses. I'm very concerned about businesses right now. I really am. That concerns me. The issue of housing, we've done two, by the way, you follow up on 2 turnkey votes we took in E-board on housing for those individuals that sadly lost their homes because of the Great Fire, and also because of the homeless issue, which has exploded all over. So I'm not sure. I don't know if we need more money for housing. Speaker thinks we do. So I'm open to that. The rent issue, yes, evictions, but that money is going to have to be in some way to help some of these landlords. So the speaker knows I feel strongly about that. If we're going to continue the moratorium, we need to have a major program to assist the landlords. So that is very important. I am concerned. I understand we're getting great reports from FEMA about cleanup, et cetera. I'm very worried to make sure we are cleaning up because, as you all know, I'm from Salem and there's the Santiam River. I understand, of course, Eugene, Springfield, that whole area, it's called the McKenzie River. I hate even the Clackamas River. Those are water sources. That's where my water comes from here in Santiam. And these rains, I hope this toxic issue is not going to become a huge burden for us down the way, because I don't believe the filters that the Salem water treatment facility has, I don't believe they have the ability to take out certain toxins. So anything along those lines, I would support making a run at. The issue of schools and childcare, I hope we're studying that, because I'm getting very concerning reports about this distance learning for children. Just going to tell you straight up. And those are all the different areas I'm very concerned about. Childcare issues. We do know domestic violence is skyrocketing. It's actually, but we do know that individuals are just, they're really affected by the shut-in. They're affected by this new way of life we're all having to live. So it's wide open. We have done a lot of good work through e-board, and even the special sessions we did good work. But I got to tell you, so I want to say that to you. So I'm willing to support the governor, the speaker, the different things they want to do, because I think it's a comprehensive list. So, you know, I agree with the speaker, $100 million would be very good. The business issue is very real. I don't think the 55 million is enough. I thank the governor for doing it, but I think we need much more than that to help our economy. The testing, we're going to have to do some massive testings again because of this skyrocketing. I assume that the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Health Science University, among others, are looking at that. For example, we are approving money and have for what, 10 mobile testing units where they go through the different states, throughout the state and test, because our rural areas are being hit very badly by that. So I went all over the place to answer your question, because yes, I support what the speaker wants to do specifically with that money, but I don't want to let it go unsaid that there is a lot of money. There's other areas we need to be going after as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator, this is Dick Hughes. Given what you just said, are you concerned about our state government, how our state government has responded so far? Do you think things need to be done differently, whether with schools or other programs?
I'm not, one day maybe I'll do a PhD on it. I won't dissertation. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. It'll come across that way. I believe everybody is killing themselves to try to do this right. We didn't have any primer. We didn't have, we never had anything in our history quite like this. And everybody's working as hard as they can. Will we one day look back and say, you know, I wish we'd done this or that? I'm sure we will. But I don't think it's because anybody's being lazy. I don't think anybody's being lazy. I think some people are probably working overtime to the point that that can hurt you as well. I think fatigue is an issue. But I for the life of me, I think that we've done some remarkable things. Just the $500 program we came up, the speaker and I, but we had the help of the legislature and the governor's office to ask the $500 amounts that went out, took 3 days and it was gone. That's a dynamic thing that we've done. This turnkey thing we're trying to do is extraordinary. We're trying to do. So I don't know, Dick. No, I'm not into the business second guessing right now. I'm just not interested. I don't have the luxury to second guess or say, well, if I were here, I'd do this. I don't have time for that. This issues are too big. The solutions require ingenuity. They require creativity. I mean, I'm going to go into, I've been here longer than anybody, and I'm in the middle of something I've never experienced before. I'm going to go into a session like I've never experienced before, and I never would have dreamed it. So, are we going to do it right or wrong? I mean, I got to worry about my own backyard before I start really judging others. I just got the feeling that everybody's trying as hard as they can, and we'll leave it at that. You can write your articles and decide who's doing good or bad, but I'm pulling my oar as hard as I can. I think everybody else is pulling their oar as hard as they can.
Senator, do you know offhand, or your staff, I apologize if this was answered and I missed it, how much is in the emergency fund currently? It's hard to keep track of since you all have been so active.
Anna, how much is in it? 64 million in the E-fund right now. Is that right, Anna? I don't want to make a mistake here.
I think that's what we discussed yesterday. I don't have that directly from LFO, so I don't want to say that for sure.
All right, I'm looking at a document that says 64, but I don't want you to say that, Dirk, without checking into it, fact checking, because otherwise you'll say that I deceived you. But I'm doing the best I can to give you a number.
Okay.
It's a very legitimate question. And so that's the answer, but I don't know if it's right or wrong. So I'd leave it at that. I'm sure we can make a call after this, call Ken Rocco and make sure we know what we're talking about.
I can reach out. Thank you.
Senator, if I may not remember this correctly, but if I do, the Article 10 on the catastrophic session was put on the ballot by the legislature, and Senator Boquist was heavily involved in that.
That's correct.
So I'm confused, if the legislature put it on the ballot, why the legislature would not know what it would do.
Well, first of all, I want to say Senator Brian Boquist, when it comes to emergency services, is as good as you can get. He is constantly trying to anticipate tragedies coming to our state and how to react to them. I don't, that's a strange question, because we pass laws all the time. And, you know, until we start to live with those laws, we can say what we mean, but can we guarantee that it's going to be what we say? And so when you say, if you're saying we don't know what we're saying, I just went out of my way to make sure that I can say to you that I will not guarantee you I can describe or interpret every bit of Article 10. For example, one of the observations made recently is it actually was designed, although they put public health, for the earthquake. It was more in our minds than anything else was the earthquake, the big quake that's coming. And the idea that people could not even get to the Capitol, if you understand, lawmakers couldn't even get here. And so it even gets into, doesn't even describe numbers that you have to have minimally before you vote, but it does say you have to have 3/5 of them if there's a certain number. Well, that was a recognition that members might not physically even be able to get to the Capitol. So what I'm saying is, I don't know that we didn't have a pandemic in mind when we did this. Now, it does say public health, but if you read it, it really speaks more to those kinds of catastrophic events, like a flood that just wipes out parts of roads, a tornado that completely destroys infrastructure, an earthquake that just, you can't even get to certain parts of the state. The pandemic, but so when you say I don't know what it does, I just want to make sure that we tried as hard as we can to do what it says, because, you know, individuals may decide to challenge this, et cetera, et cetera. We're in a time when, you know, having public input is paramount, but at the same time, we got a crisis, Dick. And so some of the things we're doing, you know, that you've reported it. I've been criticized for it. The Oregonians run an editorial saying that we got to get more of our discussions in public, and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know how else to answer it, Dick. I mean, to say the legislature doesn't know, I think it was a good faith attempt. The voters voted for it. I think they recognized that we could have a crisis, that the legislature literally could not physically convene in the state capitol, but it should still be able to govern.
I would like to ask a slightly different question, if I may.
Well, is there anybody, I don't mean to shut you off. If no one else is going to talk, fine, because I don't know, maybe they're not. I have quite a list here. So if no one else wants to ask the question, I'll recognize you. I don't mean to shut you down, but I do want to make sure that people have time here and meet their deadlines if they want to ask me or criticize me or comment on what I say. So does anybody else wish to speak before I take the third or fourth question from Mr. Hughes? That's surprising. Go ahead, Mr. Hughes. Give me the next question.
Your background in academia included teaching communications. In the state right now, most people are following the various COVID protocols, but there's a segment that isn't. What can be done to reach those people? Because it doesn't seem to be working to have the same people doing the same press conferences saying the same thing.
Well, you're making an observation as a journalist regarding press conferences that I'm not a part of. The governor does. And I'm not going to comment on that. Here we go. I'm not going to second guess the governor and or the approach to how they do things, because most people think the way I do things in your area is pretty strange. What I say, how I speak. Yeah, and when I do these kind of events, you think I'm strange. I know it because they've said it. And so I'm the last one to say that, you know, this is how you do it. People communicate in all kinds of ways. They do. And everybody has their style. As I've often said, when I taught speech, I want to speak like you, Peter. No, you don't. You want to speak like you. And when you want to communicate like you. So, you know, everybody, they're attempting to get the word out the best they can. That's their approach. If you don't agree with it, okay, you can write the editorials. I'm not going to second guess it. I'm worried about this thing I'm doing right here today. If I'm communicating to you, I don't know if I'm communicating to everybody's on this line. Whether, for example, I think Dirk said, Peter said, you said the governor's not, I think he said, you said the governor's not going to declare a catastrophic thing. And I didn't say that. I don't know where that came from, but I think Peter said that. And I never meant to, I mean, I thought he said that, and I never meant to say the governor will not, because I don't know whether the governor is going to call.
Well, I don't know either. I didn't.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean it. I'm being honest with you. I don't know. Governor literally called
I mean,
me.
it's never been done, so.
That's
but-
right. And I'll tell you, stop and think about that, Peter. If you're going to be the first, that in itself is scary. I'm just going to tell you folks, it's scary. It's scary for me.
Well, I was gonna say, the legislature got the power to call itself into a special session in 1976, but didn't actually invoke it for almost 30 years before.
Well,
Yeah.
we tried once to call ourselves in session when I was president, and it didn't work. I wasn't in the legislature in 1976. I go back a long way, Peter, but give me a break. I haven't been, I didn't start to 81, but I'm all aware that we had the ability to call us in, and I remember that only so well. It did not work. So you're right.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes.
We could call ourselves in. You're right. That's quite an undertaking into itself, but anyway. We have trouble making sure everybody's here, let alone calling ourselves in. I don't know if maybe if we call ourselves into a short session, no, the trouble is I don't do that, Peter, because you come up with that idea that might go. So anyway, well, anyway, anybody else? I'm feeling a little, the quietness gets to me. Is there any other questions? I don't know. I don't want to shut anybody off. Is that it or what? So if it is,
Yes, just some quick clarity, Senator. Do you know when you all might make a final decision on what the actual what the regular session looks like? When is there any sort of deadline or thinking about when that gets called?
Well, we haven't agreed to it, but I got to believe that we did talk about it generally, because that is a legitimate question. Watch, if I say it, then we're going to have to make a decision sometime in December, because January 11th is on. You don't want to be making it the 1st of January, I don't think. So we're going to have to make it sometime in the middle of December. And we should have all the information we need before the end of this month. And we're going to have to make that decision. Now, you got to understand, they got a matrix, which is going to influence the decision as to where the virus is. You understand that? So out of nowhere, this virus skyrocketed. I believe it's only been a week since we started to go to 800 or 1500, 1200, whatever, and really go up. So that'll be there always, this matrix. So whatever decision we make is going to have to be fluid. It's going to have to be dynamic, if you understand what I'm saying. And again, we've never been here before. And so, but I think we're going to have to send pretty strong signals by the middle of December, what we're going to do starting in January.
Well, just to clarify, when you say a matrix, are you saying with specific regard to the legislature and meeting, or something more general in a public health?
I wish I had it, but I'm not. It's coming out. It's a grid that our legislative administrator and others have put together that show the virus. And also it ties it in with the actions you take dependent upon the virus, in terms of, mask, tape on the floor. I mean, all that thing. And it's there, and it's scientific, and it's based on the medical community, but it's it allows you as a layperson like I am to say, okay, given what's happened, we're going to go here. That's what I meant to say by that. And it is literally a visual. It is a visual, a very dynamic chart. You could see it in terms of predictions. And that is, I'm talking this way. I wish I had visual aids now, because I wish so I could show you what we're thinking about. You're going to get it all. It's just, they tie it together, a package. You'll see it all. But it's a very dynamic approach to try to make sure we make decisions, maybe day by day, Dirk, because of the grid.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you for this attending. I hope it's been helpful, whatever it's worth. And until our next time we meet, I'd say happy Thanksgiving, but I'm almost afraid to because I don't know. We'll do the best we can to get through where we're at. So,
Senator, do you have anything to say about being nominated for another term as Senate President?
What do you want me to say? I don't, I mean, what do you want me to say? Something profound or something? I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm clearly,
I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
no, I don't think anybody's interested in what I got to say about that. I mean, the articles, I mean, I don't, I mean, I just hope I'm good enough to help us at this time in our history in terms of being the presiding officers of the Oregon State Senate. I just hope I'm up to it. I hope, by that I mean, I hope I'm good enough because I've had a lot of experience, but I've never been in this situation before. So I'm just sweating it, hoping I'm good enough. I hope I can step up and do good. That's all. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I'm not, I'm Irish, so I never get to celebrate. And so what I mean by that is because there's a cloud coming as soon as I do. So I'm all like, uh-oh, what's going to happen next? And I'm into a lot of clouds. And so I don't know what else to tell you that. Just hope I'm good enough to do the job. Thank you. Goodbye. And we'll see you when we see you. Be safe.
That's it for
Thank
me,
you,
Courtney.
Peter.